Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Thermal Gard Podcast. We're super excited today to have our guest, Jolene Siebeneck from Paw Prints.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how's it going, Jolene?
It's going great. It's been a good week. I can't complain.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Well, let's spoil it a little bit for the crowd. What did you do this weekend?
I may have just won first place in the Super Bowl of pet grooming competitions and the creative grooming competition. So I am the number one creative groomer in the country right now, actually kind of in the world. So yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm still on the high.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
That's so
Thank
cool.
you.
It is. So before you became the best groomer in the world, let's go back and let's kind of talk about kind of where you're from and how you got started in the business and why you became an entrepreneur.
Okay. So I grew up in Lipstick, Ohio, a small little town, Putnam County. Grew up on a farm. My parents are farmers, full-time farmers. So I grew up very secluded on a farm. But my love for dogs really came about when we got it was a rough collie. He's like a tricolor rough collie when I was 8 years old. And they brought him home as a little puppy, and I was attached immediately. And I knew, like, just back then, growing up with him, I trained him, I groomed him, thought I groomed him, thought I knew what I was doing. Definitely did not know what I was doing back then, but I would groom him myself, and I trained him myself, and I took care of him all the time. And I knew back then, like, one day I would start my own business doing something with dogs. Never knew what that was going to be until I got older, but I just knew back then that I wanted to get into something working with dogs.
Okay. So how old were you then?
I was 8 years old.
8.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah. I know. I think about it. I mean, after we got that dog, I remember, people don't probably know what dictionaries are anymore, like the hard covered,
Webster.
Yes. And we had a whole dictionary, collection. And I would pull out and just look up dogs and different breeds of dogs and would just research everything I possibly could. And then anytime we'd go shopping, if there was books around, if I could find a book about any kind of dog breed, I would beg my mom to buy it for me because I wanted to learn everything I possibly could about dogs, dog breeds, everything. So I was very all about dogs as I was growing up.
Gotcha. I'm going to show my ignorance, but was there like dogs in 4-H or anything at that time or anything in your community?
No.
Nothing.
And I was in 4-H when I was younger, but we didn't, like, now they do. Now they have like dog showing and dogs and like you can do different things. But back then, no, there was nothing like that then. So nope. And honestly, like growing up on a farm, I didn't even know like dog grooming was a thing. Mm-hmm. And not that it was a really big thing back then. It is more so now. Like, I think we treat our dogs a lot differently than we did, like, I want to say like 10 years ago, but actually it was like, 35,
right.
Back then, just having a farm dog, they lived outside. We didn't do the things we do for our pets now. Like our pets are our babies, they are one of the family. So, people are getting them groomed more often. Back then, we got our dog groomed once a year, and it was literally, he was pelted and we had just have to shave him down because he was so matted and dirty. We would take him to the vet. Actually, they would have to sedate him because he's not used to it, and shave him down. He just sheared him. Mm-hmm, and that's all I knew about grooming growing up. So I really didn't know anything about grooming or even the industry or the career, nothing. So that's why, like, when I say I was growing up, I just want to do something with dogs, was because I never knew grooming was even a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like you're saying, I think the use of dogs in America has totally changed radically over the last, 200 years. Before it was working dogs, guide dogs, hunting dogs.
Yep. They had a purpose.
Yeah. Yep. Now it's more, there is still all those things a lot, especially in rural communities, but now it's more companion. Friend,
exactly.
Your friend around the house.
Yep.
So having your dog clean and pampered at a pet spa,
sleeping with you in bed, and sitting with you on the couch and eating food with you, like that was not a thing back in the day. People really didn't do that. Yeah. So
it is kind of wild to think about how just dog ownership has evolved.
Right.
Totally different from how it used to be.
For sure. Yeah.
So take us into high school, college, after college. If you went to college, I don't know. How did you kind of set yourself up?
I had a short stint. So I, like I said, I didn't know grooming was a thing. So in high school, I still knew I wanted to do something with the animals, dogs mostly. So I was kind of thinking, what can I do in the future working with dogs? And I was just thinking like, I probably have to become a vet, like probably vet assistant, something along those lines. So I started taking classes in high school that would gear towards more for like, let's go be a vet. So like, I remember like my senior year, I took an anatomy class and we had to dissect a cat. And to learn the muscles and bones and stuff like that, because there are a lot of muscles are similar to human. And so we had to dissect a cat, which that didn't gross me out or anything. I was totally okay with that. I grew up on a farm, so I've seen a lot of things.
Right.
I've dealt with a lot of things. So, but it was mostly, I think, at that time too, my dog that I grew up with, his name was Tyler, that we got, my rough collie that we got when I was 8. He, throughout in high school, he actually was hit by a car on the road, and he had to have this surgery done. They didn't think he was going to be able to walk again. And it kind of came to, if he can't walk, we're going to have to put him down, and ended up having that. We had to put him down. And so that made me pretty sad, as my best friend. I mean, I would play with this dog all the time. Like growing up on the farm, he was my best friend. I taught him how to play hide and seek. At least I thought I did, but it was kind of fun. I would throw a toy and run the other way and hide, and then he'd come fight me. It was like my entertainment growing up on a farm was always playing with my dog. But it was just kind of like at that moment, it kind of hit me like, like I could really help animals by being a vet, but the other part of it, like if you really try so hard to do surgery and save a pet, and what if they don't make it? It was a sad part, like the other side, like having to tell somebody like, hey, I did everything I could, but I couldn't save your dog, or couldn't save your cat. I'm like, that sounds really sad and very depressing. And I don't want to give that news every day to people. Like that does not sound fun. So then I had to shift gears there and was like, okay, now what do I want to be when I grow up? So I kind of thought about getting into more of like television, or like, going to school for telecommunications, doing something along those lines, because it sounded fun. But then when it really came down to it, I was like, my heart's not there. I still want to do something with animals. I don't want to waste my time, money going to college for that. So then I decided like, I still want to do like, have my own business, something with animals. And so I went to Owens Community College in Findlay and went for business management. So I did that, and it only lasted about a year because I was just tired of being, school stuff. But also at that same time, I was working as a kennel assistant at a grooming boarding vet facility in Findlay. And I worked in the kennel, and I got to see the grooming side of it all. And like I said, like I never really thought about that before until I started working there, when I got to see like the whole grooming side. And I was like, oh, wow. Like instead of like saving your dog, I could just make your dirty dog look fabulous and smell great. Like that sounds fun. That's more positive, right? Like it's a more positive thing. So when I was working there and was going to school, I kind of dropped out of school to go to grooming school. So I went to grooming school in Toledo, did that. It took me about a year to complete that course. And at about the same time, I was doing an online course too. But doing the online course, it gave you all the knowledge and all that, which was great. But I did not feel confident with like, okay, I just read about how you're supposed to groom. So I'm going to grab clippers and shears and just go at it with a dog. Like, that's crazy. like how do I, like, just because I read about it doesn't mean like I know how to do it. So that's why like I went to school. So went to Toledo. The academy is not there anymore, but I went to Toledo, graduated from there, and that's where I got all my hands-on experience for grooming. So, and then since then it's been, I started my own business, and I kind of worked a couple places and started my own business. But then now we definitely still like do continue education classes. We go to seminars, we travel, and like I said, do competitions and stuff like that. So we are constantly learning everything we can about grooming.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. For those people who don't know, myself included, why don't grooming academies or anything like that exist anymore? Grooming college, I don't know what you call it.
So yeah, they don't really exist. I mean, there are still some out there. They're far and few in between, because there is no licensing on grooming. So like anybody, if you wanted to go buy some clippers right now from the store and say, I'm a pet groomer now, you could do that. There's nobody stopping you to do that. There's no like regulations, no laws. So that's kind of a scary thing though, because you can imagine anybody could just pick up and start doing that without, any kind of prior education or training. And imagine you're using scissors and clippers and how much you could hurt an animal, not knowing what you're doing. So it is kind of scary that there's not anything out there. I mean, I always suggest to people, like, if you want to learn and you've never done this before, find a school or find a mentor, a place that would train you. So like with me, with my business and with my employees, if there's a good employee that wants to learn how to be a groomer and they, been with me for a while and it's something they want to do, I start them off as a bather first, just kind of get to learn dogs and coats and how they act, because not every dog likes to be groomed. So sometimes it's a struggle. And they need to learn how to work with that animal. They have to have the patience and the compassion. And if they don't have the patience and compassion, just bathing them, they're definitely not going to make it as a groomer. So if they can put that time in and show me that, like, you can be compassionate, you can be patient, you can work with animals, then I'll take you to the next level and I will start training you to be a groomer. So, and then they can learn from people who've been at, it's me and I've got a couple other girls that work for me that have been doing it for years and years, that can do the training. Yeah. So there's a lot of people that they'll just go find a grooming place and just be trained in. So, and they'll get paid to learn. So, I mean, why would you not want to be paid to learn instead of paying to learn to go to school?
Right.
So,
yeah, you said, like, even before you went to the school to learn how to do what you're doing, you said, like, you knew for sure you wanted to start your own business. Where did that come from?
I think from growing up on a farm and my mom and dad, like, that was, I mean, the farm ran them. I mean, obviously when you have animals and you've got, all these acres that you have to farm, that is your priority. But I think just having that freedom and being your own boss type thing, I think that always kind of spoke to me. And like I said, I have worked other jobs before I started my own business. So like me, start my own business to be able to do things the way I want to do them. And, not that, sometimes your business runs you anyways. But just to kind of do the things the way I want to do them. But yeah.
Yeah. Take us through those kind of early jobs and how you set yourself up and then decided to take the jump.
Let's see. I think I've talked about this before. Kind of in high school, one of my jobs was working at a woodworking facility. I kind of did like all the, odd and end jobs. I did the cleaning, I did like staining, I did sanding, I got to go on job sites to help install, like they did cabinets and countertops and things like that. But it was a lot of fun. I was the only girl working with all these guys. So that was interesting, but it was a fun job and I learned a lot. So, and then after that, I was a waitress for like 30 days. I have mad respect for servers because I literally lasted 30 days and was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I was not very good at it. Not gonna lie, I was terrible. And I was just like, I don't know how, like, I don't have the patience to deal with people being rude. And so I'm like, that doesn't sound fun to me. So yeah, I did that for a little while. I worked as a cashier at a store for like a week and bounced out of that. It was like, that's not fun. I worked at a factory for 3 days. It was a night shift. And I was like, yep, not doing that. I was like, I can't hack it. So I kind of did like just a lot of that. And then I took on some grooming jobs after I went to grooming school. I kind of worked for a couple of different places. And I knew working those places, I was kind of just trying to save up money so I could start my own. But it was really hard working for other people because I was kind of working for people who owned the grooming business but weren't groomers. So it's hard to work for somebody that doesn't know the industry like you do, or that, you're kind of in it and they're not. They don't understand what it takes to be a groomer. So I found that very challenging and very difficult. So as soon as I could try to do something for myself, I took up on that opportunity, which that's kind of a crazy story because I was young. I was 22 when I started my business. And I remember I was like, you know what? My mom and dad were just like, just do your own, just start your own. And he was my boyfriend then, but my now husband, he too at the time was kind of pushing me like, you should really just start your own business. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? Like, I'm 22. I don't have credit. Like, the only thing I have to my name is maybe a car. I still lived at home with my mom and dad. So I was just like, there's no way, like, I'm going to be able to do this. So I put together a business plan. I actually found somebody to kind of help me through all this business stuff. Put together a business plan, went to like a big bank, and they were like, absolutely no. Like, we're not going to give you a loan. Like, no, you're crazy. And I was like, oh, well, now what am I going to do? Like, that kind of stinks. And so then I'm like, you know what if I try like a local bank? Like growing up in Lipstick, Ohio, I went to like a local bank there in town, and I went and talked to the guy, and he was like, yeah, oh, we can do this, but I need your dad to co-sign for you. And I was like, Dad. And he was like, for sure, let's do this. Mm-hmm. So I got my loan. And in the meantime, I wanted to start with a mobile grooming van, was my very first thing I had opened up. And I found a used one for sale, and it was in Florida. And so we negotiated the price, and the lady's like, yep, we made a deal, and we decided we're going to meet in North Carolina, meet halfway, and pick up the van from her and make the exchange. So I had talked to the loan officer and had my loan and my van all picked up within a week. It would happen that fast. And I was like, oh, here we go. So it was a fun little trip that it was me, my mom, my dad, my husband. Well, he was my boyfriend then, but now my husband, and my brother. We all drove down to North Carolina to meet this lady to buy this van to bring it back. So that was pretty cool.
I got to ask, how much was the van?
Cheap then. I would love to pay that price that I paid 22 years ago.
Right. That's why
because it's like
curious.
Double now. I think my very first van, I want to say I paid $50,000 for it.
Okay.
But that same like van now goes, I mean, even used, you're buying, it's at least double buying it used, but buying it brand new, I mean, they're almost like $200,000 for these grooming units. It's insane.
Well, yeah, I mean, heated, cooled water.
Yeah, it's an RV on wheels, basically. I mean, a grooming shop on wheels, but it's like set up like an RV just with all grooming stuff inside. But yeah.
They are really cool.
Yeah.
I've looked at your mobile units. They're awesome. Okay, so you started with the mobile unit. First couple weeks, 6 months, how'd it go?
So, one of the jobs I forgot about. So when I started my business, I knew I wasn't going to take off right away. I was going to have to build up clientele, especially in like Putnam County, Ohio, like where everybody has farm dogs. And, I'm like, how am I going to get this grooming business? Because you charge more for a mobile than you do a shop, but we are coming to you. It's like you're paying for the convenience and, that type of service. So it took some time to build up the clientele. So as I started my business, I was working part-time at the Findlay Mall, which is, I think it's still there, right? But it was
just barely.
Yeah, barely. I know it's like a ghost town. But it was a sunglass hut. So, I would, sell sunglasses. So I was doing that for a little while as I started my grooming business until I really kind of grew my business and I could kind of do that more full time. But yeah, so that was fun too. But yeah, so it took time to grow, but, I just had to get myself out there and try to advertise as much as I could and try to talk people into let me come to their house to groom their dog in my van.
Yeah. When were you able to go full time?
Honestly, it probably wasn't too long. I think it was, I'm going to say maybe 6 months. Then I kind of just really went to it full time and it was great.
Yeah. Awesome. So take us through, I guess, your first couple years then. How did you start to grow, start to scale? When was your first hire? Take us through those early years.
So I would say within the first year that, I was already like, what else can I do? What else can we do? What can I do to grow and grow this business and become more? And there was this old rundown building in our hometown. And I kept looking at it and I'm like, that would make a great kennel. Like I could turn that into a grooming and boarding facility. Like I think that would go over really well. And after, kind of when the mobile really did pick up and it was going really well, I'm like, we could do both. And if I hired help and yada, yada, yada. I would say it was about a year later after starting my business that I bought a building and started hiring people and started training. My problem was it was 22 years ago, that trying to find people in Putnam County, around the Putnam County area that had grooming experience was very little. It's hard to find groomers. I still, even now, it's still kind of difficult to find good groomers. But back then, it was unheard of. So I knew anybody that I was going to hire, I was going to have to do paid training. I was going to have to teach them how to groom to help me. So it was very trying. I've learned so much through the years because the first few hires, you hire somebody and I'm paying them to learn and they're training with me and they're grooming right beside me every day, trying to teach them everything I could. Well, then after they're in it for about, some lasted a few days, some lasted some weeks, some lasted a few months. But they get into it and they realize, I don't like this because dogs aren't the easiest thing to work with. Not every dog likes to be groomed. So, people like to say, oh, you get to play with dogs all day. That's not It's not true. I wish we get to play with dogs all day, but we get to work with dogs all day. And some dogs hate to be groomed. So we have to really like try to comfort them and calm them down and try to work with them. Like we really have to train the dog that it's okay and that we're not going to hurt them and everything will be fine, you know? So we have to earn their trust. So it's a little bit to deal with. So people getting into it, they think it's going to be just this easy, fun job when really it's not, you know. And then you got to deal with, you know, some dogs that freak out and they may pee all over you, pee all over your table, poop all over the table. I think expressing their anal glands, like it could be really gross and messy and smelly, and that's not fun either. So
at the end of the day, it's an animal.
It is an animal, right? Yeah, and they are gonna do animal things. So I mean, you're gonna get bit, and it's everybody I hire always tell them like it's not if I get bit, it's when I get bit, and this is how we handle it because you're gonna get bit no matter how much you try to avoid it. It's going to happen for sure.
Yeah, there is a rabbit hole I want to dive down, and that's hiring. So
Yeah.
you mentioned really, really tough learning those first years.
Yeah.
Kind of share with us now your experience and what you've learned and how you hire people successfully and retain them successfully.
Yeah, so I feel like when I started my business, I was really young, and I think that was a big challenge for me because I feel like when I first was hiring people and bringing people on, a lot of people were older than me. So then I was getting a lot of like, well, you're so young. You don't know. You don't understand. It's like, you know, you don't have kids. You don't have a husband. You don't have this. You don't have that. And I'm like, I know I don't have that, but I have your job. Like you work for me and I have family and friends that have kids and have this and have that. And like, they can make it to work. Like, I don't understand like what the issue was, but I felt like I struggled with that a lot. That's obviously not an issue now because that was 20 some years ago, but beginning it was a lot of like, they were older than me and they didn't respect me as a boss. So that was hard for me. So it took me a while to kind of get through and figure out how I need to handle things and how we need to do things. It has been a roller coaster with staff. I feel like now I do a lot of background checks. I do a lot of, them as a person, their personality. I've always brought people in for interviews, but kind of really getting to know them a little bit more and their work ethic. And then also I feel like I supply my staff with so much more, like a lot of benefits. And I think that kind of helps too. I mean, from people we hired years ago to what we have now, it's a huge difference. And I think people are really appreciative of like all the extra things we do for our staff. So yeah, I think that makes a big difference too.
Yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who they do have people working under them that are older than them and they're struggling to kind of get that respect?
I think honestly, it's just, you need to sit down and just have a conversation and just be like, hey, you may not respect me or see eye to eye, but this is what is best for the business. This is what's best for, the company. And if you can't respect these decisions, then, it's not going to work. Like, it's just not going to work out. So, I mean, they either need to get to your level and understand and come have respect for you and do the decisions you are making. Or they got to go. Like, if you can't show that respect. I mean, I've been there before. Like, I remember in my early days where I hated going into work. I hated going into my own facility because people didn't respect me and they didn't care. And it was hard. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, this is my business, but I don't even want to go in there because I know people don't respect me. So, we had to make some hard choices and, do some things, but, it's either you respect me, do the things I'm telling you, understand where I'm coming from. And if you don't have that respect, then you can't work here. Like, it's just not going to work out.
Yeah. Which is a perfect segue back into those early days, your first location, hiring staff, takes you through the grind.
Yeah, it was a grind. At one time, listen, this has been a roller coaster of this business. If I could tell you, I grew the business very young. Within, I'm going to say probably my first 5-6 years of business. I grew it where we had 2 mobile grooming vans. We had a grooming shop and boarding kennel, and we were contracted out with 2 vet locations. And then I had the boarding kennel. I had 25 employees at that time. It was chaos.
Wow.
And
at 28, 29?
No, at my age, I was probably 25, 26 when that happened.
Okay.
Yeah. And I hated it.
I'm 25. That sounds, I can't imagine
It was just chaos. And it was just like, what am I doing? Like I hate this. It's way too much. It's too stressful. It's way too much to manage and deal with. And so, my husband at that time had a great job opportunity, but it took us to New York. We had to move to Albany, New York. And at that time I was like, you know what? I need to get away. I need to reset my mind and clear my mind to see, are we doing all the right things we should be doing, or do I need to back down? It's just too much. So he took the job and we moved to New York, and I'd come back once a month for a week just to check in with the businesses. And I hired 2 managers, and one of them are still with me now, but hired 2 managers and kind of helped to run everything, And at that time I was like, you know what, this isn't worth it, and I was after I took myself away, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And so I just started downsizing, and I was like, let's just downsize, make it simple. I don't want to deal with all these people and do all this anymore. It wasn't fun. I hated it every day. So we downsized, and I downsized to 1 van and a grooming shop. My grooming shop and boarding kennel I still have in Lipsick. So got rid of the staff, just had a couple people, and then it was much simpler. I was happier. It was better. And eventually we had moved back. And when I had moved back, I took my van over, and a groomer that was working for me, she wanted to buy my Lipstick location from me. So we worked out a deal, a rent to own thing. And so she took over my Lipstick location, and then I kept my van, and I ran my van when we moved back from New York. And, but that didn't last very long, which is really sad. I feel like we really built that business. We were probably having 30 dogs coming in a day at our Lipstick location. It was busy when I left that location to her. So it was made. The business was built. She just kind of took it over, renamed it, kept the clientele. But then she stopped paying me rent and had all these excuses. And eventually I was like, all right, well, this isn't working out. So either... you just need to get out, or you need to pay me money. And she was like, I'm just going to get out. So I'm like, all right, fine. I think at this time she owed me $7,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right. So she moved out. And then by this time, when all this happened, like I said, we had moved back from New York. I was running my van. I had my first child, my first son, and I had a groomer working for me at that time too, working with me. We were working together. And so when I went on maternity leave, she kind of took over for me when I went on maternity leave. So then I had asked her, because I was just like, let's just sell it and be done. But then my husband's like, but what if you could run it? Would you want to rebuild and run it? He's like, now that you have this other groomer, she's been great. What if you could run both locations? And I was like, maybe. I'm like, if she's on board, we'll do it. If she's not, then I'm not going to try to attempt this, So I talked to her. It was actually Stephanie, my groomer, that's still with me to today. I said, hey, this Lipstick location, would you be interested in helping out running that? We both, can work both locations. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. So I took that back over. So yeah, I went down to just 1 van. And it was like, all right, I guess we're going back to the shop. So we started doing shop, but I didn't reopen the kennel at that time, because I just, with having a newborn, I was just worried about I was going to have to hire staff again. I was going to have to hire kennel help and, people to manage all that. I didn't want to deal with all that. And then plus having a baby, I'm like, if somebody would call off in the evening, I would have to pack up. My husband travels a lot for work, so he's gone half the time. But I was like, I would have to pack up my child, drive all the way to Lipsick, and take care of boarding dogs. I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. I just didn't want to. So we just never reopened the kennel, but we reopened the grooming shop. So we've been open there since. And then I told my husband back then, I swore off employees when we moved to New York. I said, I would never have employees again. That was terrible. Never, ever. He tells me this all the time. Remember when you said you would never have employees again? I'm like, yep, I remember that. I said I would never have employees ever again. It was the worst thing, worst experience ever. Hated it. I have 17 employees now.
How long were you guys in New York?
For about 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I came back and forth so much. It doesn't really feel like that. But he definitely was there for 3 years. I just was back and forth quite a bit.
What kept you coming back to it? Was it just a passion for what you were doing, or did you have this ambition for it? What was it that kept you coming back?
I think I love dogs. I love animals. I love grooming like that. I love that. It was the employees that killed my dreams for me. I felt like I let them ruin everything for me. So I felt like when I had to take a step back and downsize and just went to one van and I had to kind of regroup and kind of figure out like, is this really what I want to do, or do I want to do something else? And I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. So I'm like, I really want to still groom. And so, and then eventually I kind of came back to like, maybe employees aren't that terrible and this could be great. Like maybe I need to do a better job hiring people. I don't know. But so, yeah, but since then, we've had employees. Like I said, Stephanie's been with me. She's been for 12 years now. We've had a lot of employees come and go since then. She's stuck with me, but it happens too. Some people, things come up in life, they change what they want to do or go somewhere else or whatever it is. We're not the right fit, but I think we've come a very long way, and I love the staff I have now. I feel like we have a really strong team. So I'm happy. I'm very happy where we are right now and with my team.
Yeah. And that's so good. So I want to dive back into the stress a little bit. When you said it was absolutely horrible, hated every single second of it.
Did.
So was there money there? Was there financial stress, or was it purely just staff not getting along, causing so much mental anguish you couldn't handle no matter how good the money was?
No, there was still money. Like there was still like money stress there for sure. Like it was a lot of times I was kind of in over my head with some things. Because I had 2 vans, a mortgage, and then I wasn't obviously like looking back at it now. I'm like, man, I should have been charging a lot more back then than what I did now. Of course, everything goes up over the years, but even like I priced myself too low when I first opened my business, which is a big mistake, So I think it was a little bit of everything. And once I kind of figured out the financial more of it, it was just employees. It didn't make it worth it, right? Like I was just like, this isn't worth it. This isn't worth like, if I'm struggling to, get ahead and actually make a good profit off this business, and I'm dealing with all the drama and craziness over here with all these people, why am I doing this? Like, it's not worth it. It's not fun. It just wasn't fun for me anymore. And that's the big difference, I think, too.
Yeah. So I've talked to business owners in the past where their prices are very, very low, and they're afraid they're going to lose their regular loyal customers if they would ever raise prices. What advice would you give those people?
They'll come back. If they really, truly like you and love the service you provide and your quality of service is there, they'll come back. We do it all the time. I had a client who's been a client of mine for ever since I've started the business. She pulled out her receipt. She's like, I remember, and this is a mobile client. I remember when you first started coming to us, you were only charging me $40 for this little dog. And now you charge $100. And I'm like, yeah, that was 20 some years ago. So I'm like, yeah, prices have gone up, but so is everything, but I'm like, I also was not charging enough back then, for sure was not charging enough, but I couldn't stay. And that's what I tell clients now, when we talk about, we have to raise our rates, especially here lately, everything went up, our shampoos, everything we use on a day-to-day have skyrocketed. I remember a few months ago, this gallon of shampoo I was buying was $50 for this gallon of shampoo is now $85. And I was like, what? I expected to increase a little bit, but I was $35 more for this gallon of shampoo.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm like, that is such a hike. So am I just supposed to eat that cost? No, I can't afford to eat that cost. So our prices are going to have to go up.
And you can't go with a cheaper option, because I think the adage is if it's a race to the bottom, then everyone loses. Right. Where it's compete on the product.
Right.
Your product is already great.
Right.
If the price goes up, the product is still what it is.
Right.
So you have to make that decision.
Yeah, and and I've played around with that before, years ago. It was more of like I said, when I first kind of started my business, I kind of started I want top of the line products. I'm I want all the great stuff, and then that was a terrible idea because I wasn't charging enough for that. And then, so I went to cheaper stuff, and then that stuff wasn't very great for skin and coat and all that stuff. It just wasn't very good product, So then I went back to we need the better product. It does make a huge difference. So now we use top of the line products again. And I mean, and it's going to cost more, but it makes your dog, it cleans them better. They smell better longer. It's just it's a better product overall. So we use top of the line products for those reasons.
Yeah. Going back to the issue of employees and hiring and everything like that, was it just that, the trial and error of it where like eventually you just found the right people, or was there something that you did differently when you were going through the hiring process where you were able to find the right people?
I think a lot of it was trial and error, and then just kind of eventually kind of working my way into like, okay, who's going to be a good fit and who's not, and trying to like, I don't want to say like look at a person on their like personal life, but you kind of have to like, are you going to make it to work, or do you have to worry about that? So it's a lot of trial and error for sure.
You got to figure out like, is this someone I want to work with?
Right. Yeah. Somebody that I can get along with, because when you're grooming, especially when I'm training somebody, we are literally as close as you guys are sitting right now. You're working side by side and I'm trying to train them on how to do everything. So you're right beside them all day, every day. So yeah, it's got to be somebody that I know I'm going to be able to get along with. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you got the business back in Lipsick, you got your mobile grooming unit. Kind of take us through the next, few years.
Need new windows, doors, or a patio enclosure? Don't worry, Detective Dudley is on the hunt for the best deals. Get triple pane glass for the price of double. Take advantage of free installation and 12-month same-as-cash financing. And don't forget about 15% off patio enclosures. Call 419-229-4273 or go online for a free, no-obligation estimate today.
So we had to shut down our Lipsick location. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think how that all happened. But we had to shut down. Oh, I think it was a staffing issue. Sorry, that's what it was. I'm like, why did we shut down for a little bit? Because it was a staffing issue. We had a groomer. We had a groomer over there that was promising the world, and she was going to stay there forever, and yada, yada, yada. And so I put her as our main groomer at the Lipsick location, and we were already short-staffed, and it was already like hard to make sure everybody was covered everywhere. And she kind of just quit out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, great. Now what am I going to do? And I'm like, I don't have anybody to run the Lipsick location. So we had to shut down for a little bit. But before that, so after Lipsick, I had started our Slabtown location. I want to say before Lipsick, but before we shut down our Lipsick location, I had opened up our Slabtown location, which is based at my house, but it's its own little shop there.
In Lima area.
Yeah, in Lima. And we opened up that and started doing one-on-one grooming there, and cage-free one-on-one grooming, kind of like what we do now, the express grooming services, and kind of just opened up small, had one groomer there running that, and a lot of times it was me because it was right there at my house, so that was nice. Kind of was running that, and then after we had that up and going for a bit, then the Lipsick location, we had to shut it down for a little bit. And then I really debated, and I actually tried to sell it because I'm like, I don't really want to mess with this anymore. It's all way in Lipsick, whatever. So we shut it down for a bit. I put it up for sale. But in the meantime, all those Lipsick clients started coming to Lima. Like we had clients driving 30, 45 minutes to come to us in Lima to use our services because they didn't want to go anywhere else. So after that was happening, I was like, well, maybe we could reopen the Lipsick shop, get it, like, let's find another groomer, get somebody open, get somebody over there to open that and run it, and we'll run it differently. Because at that time, we ran the Lipsick location where we had like 30 dogs coming in a day. And it was like an assembly line. Like we had bathers, the bathers would bathe, dry, prep the dog. The groomer would actually do the haircut. So it was like the dog was bouncing from person to person. And that's kind of how old school groomers kind of worked. Everybody kind of just, it's an assembly line. You had cage dryers, your dog is there. It gets dropped off in the mornings there all day long because they're getting dropped off. They're bathing them, putting them in a crate to dry. And it's just kind of like in order, like how soon can you get to that dog? So dogs are just sitting in crates all day. And that's kind of how a lot of grooming shops operate around here. I mean, still to this day, it's kind of how they operate. You drop off your dog, they're there for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours sometimes. So with our new location that we had opened up by Bath Schools on Slabtown Road, we are just doing like express one-on-one cage-free grooming. And it's kind of like our mobiles. Like our mobiles operate that way. Obviously, we're going to the client's house. So we want to kind of do that and offer like a cheaper option for people because they like the one-on-one service. They like it's cage-free, it's express grooming, their dog's not in a crate. They really like that, but they didn't like the price they had to pay for the mobile. So we're like, well, this is another option where they can come to us, It's cheaper than the mobile, but more expensive than going to another type of grooming shop where they're going to be cage dried and, be there all day.
A middle option.
Yeah. So I opened that up on Slabtown Road, and that took off really well. And like I said, then that's when we started having clients from the Lipstick area and surrounding areas coming all the way to us to do that. And I thought, if these people are willing to drive that far and pay that price, because instead of them paying like, let's say like $40 for this groom, and now they're paying almost double, they're paying like $70 to come to us to have their dog in and out quick. It might be, worth reopening our lipstick shop again and doing one-on-one grooming there and not do the cage grooming, just do one-on-one grooming. So instead of us seeing like 30 dogs a day, we're seeing like 5, it's a big difference. But that's why you get to charge a lot more too, because you're not doing 30 dogs, you're doing 5. So, so we reopened the lipstick shop and got a groomer over there, and we've been open since there too. So now we do one-on-one cage-free grooming at our lipstick location. So all of our locations are all just one-on-one cage-free express grooming services. So after the Slabtown location was open, I got another mobile. Actually, it was a trailer that we started off with. I wanted the trailer originally for me for when I travel around for competitions. I wanted my own place to work with my dog, to work on my dog and stuff to get ready for competitions. So essentially I bought it for that originally, but then after I brought it home and we were fixing it up, because it was a little bit of a fixer-upper, I kind of just said to my husband, I'm like, what if I had a groomer run this every day, and then, when I would need to use it for competitions, I'll just take it to competitions. Like, why not put it on the road every day? Let's make some money on this thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, of course, no brainer. So then I found, luckily I had a couple groomers working for me that have horses, know how to drive a horse trailer, so they were like, okay with it. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. So then we got a second one out on the road, start with the trailer. And then that trailer eventually turned into a van. So actually this last December, I thought, we grew the clientele, and, I think it's time to get a van for it. So we took the trailer off the road, and I bought a van in December to be our second mobile unit.
So first thing, the lipstick location has really been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Been up, down, closed, open.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's worked out totally great for you.
It has. It is crazy, because now I'm just like, I don't think I could ever get rid of it. But like,
right.
I mean, I did. I tried a couple of times to get rid of it. It didn't work out. So I'm just like, all right, I guess I'm stuck with this thing. But I mean, it's been great though. I mean, we do well there. We've got a great clientele and staffing. It's been great.
Well, it's definitely a testimony to your product and your service that you're offering. It is that good for you guys to be kind of rocky as far as your hours and when you're open, when you're not, but your clientele just keeps coming back, and it's so solid. It definitely shows who you are as a business and the service you're trying to provide for people, which is huge. But what I would love to hear is somebody out there right now is going through the same thing. Things are up and down. They're closed one day, they're open the next. I mean, an absolute grind. I cannot imagine like the mental state I would be in if I was having to make those really hard choices.
Yeah.
So can you share any advice for somebody who's going through that?
I think for me at that time, it was having to kind of take a step back and really try to understand, like, okay, why am I feeling this way and what is going on? And is it worth it? Is everything I'm going through right now worth it? And do I see an end to it, or can it get better, or is it not? It's kind of like I really had to step back and think about, like, the pros and cons of it all. And can it be worth it? Will it be worth it someday? Can I put in the time and effort? And it was up and down so many times where I'm like, no, like, this is terrible. I hate it. Like, I hated my life. Like, it was bad, like bad. I mean, I got in like deep depression. It was bad. But I think when I really kind of sat down and really thought about it all, I just knew, like, it's still like a dream and a passion of mine. And I really wanted to make it a go. Like, I didn't, and the other part of it is I don't like failure. And like, I don't feel like I don't like feeling like I'm a failure. And that was that's a conversation I had with my husband multiple times. It's like, you're not a failure. Like, even if you close it down and you close for good, it doesn't mean you're a failure. You're like, you still have your mobiles, you still have this, but I think it was just like self-pride too, where I'm like, no, like that's my hometown. It's where I grew up. Like, I can't just like go out like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I kind of did get to the points a couple of times where I'm like, no, I'm done. Like when I put it up for sale, I was like, nah, I'm just going to walk away. I actually put it up for sale and I sold everything in there. Sold it all of my grooming tables, all of my grooming stuff. I was like, I'm never going to need this again. I'm not going to reopen. And then I reopened and then I had to go buy all new stuff.
Wow. That
I don't know.
It even more amazing.
It's just, it's called I'm crazy.
Well, you say it's your hometown. You can't give up on it. What made you keep coming back to Lipstick? What made you want to stay there and make it work there? I mean, obviously, with the issue of being staffing specifically, you could go to a bigger place and probably have an easier time staffing it.
For sure.
So why was it so important to stay in Lipstick?
I mean, it's my roots. It's my hometown. And I've had such a great support there. Like I have a lot of, family friends, like a lot of friends still there, and they've been very supportive. We've had clients that, when we did shut down, they were driving all the way to Lima. And that's what made my decision right there. When my clients that were making that long of a drive to come to us to pay more to get their dog groomed, how many grooming shops are they passing to come to me, to drive all the way to Lima, so that made me, it was just like, if they're willing to do that, why not go back to Lipstick and reopen? Because if they're willing to make that drive and pay more money, let's reopen. Like they're loyal to me. So then I just kind of felt like I want to be loyal to them too, So like they've been with me for years and, I want to go back and kind of reopen and be there for them.
Yeah. So let's jump into kind of the next part of your career, which is your competition. So for somebody who has no idea what a grooming competition is or how it works and all the different, I guess, categories is how you say it. Can you just break that down for the audience real quick?
Yeah. So for grooming competitions, there are different kinds. There's like your standard breed, like they have poodle competitions where you can do like a poodle in any type of poodle cut. It has to be recognized, I think, by the AKC or whatever. They have like a sporting breed one. They have a freestyle, and that's like one of my groomers. She does the freestyle one where you can take whatever dog in and you can put whatever haircut you want on it. It just can't be the breed specific to that dog. You can just do anything else you want with it. And you're just kind of judged on what you're doing. So yeah, they have like for the different breeds, you have to do it to breed standard. And that's what you're competing on for the breed standard of that dog. And then they have like what they call a rescue competition where they take like dogs that are in shelters or in foster homes, bring them in. And it's like whoever can do the best transformation on a dog. So they have those, and that's great for like entry level people. Like that's where I started. When I first started getting into competing, I started with like rescue competitions just to kind of get yourself out there to start competing and to see what it's like. And then they have like creative grooming. So there's like different types of creative. They have what they call like abstract creative or runway, where however you want to cut your dog or whatever, as far as like style it, you do, but then you have to put like some kind of abstract design on the side of the dog, which is pretty cool. And then they have creative grooming, like extreme creative. It's where most people use poodles. Some people use like Bichons or, maybe even a doodle, but, most of them are poodles because of the coat type, because you can take a poodle when they haven't been groomed or they just got wet, they have like tight curls, but like when you groom them and you blow them out and you fluff them out, they have nice fluffy hair that is so nice to cut and carve, and you can turn it into anything you want. So they have special dye for dogs. There's no chemicals in it. It's actually like vegetable grade, so you could eat it if you really want to. Some people do. I don't. But if I wanted to lick it, I could. I've never been tempted, though. So
never been that hungry.
No, never been that hungry. But yeah, so they have like these different color dyes and stuff that you can dye your dog and turn them into anything. So like, I mean, you see all kinds of crazy things out there. But yeah, and so I do like I said, I've done the rescue, and then I started doing creative, and I've done abstract and extreme creative grooming. So that's where we travel around and we compete in competitions.
And when did you start that?
It's about 10 years ago. I kind of dabbled in it. I think I always wanted to do creative grooming. When I first started my business, I had asked the lady I bought my first band from, I said, hey, as a new groomer, starting out, I'm like, what is the best, advice you can give me? And she said, you need to go to Hershey to Groom Expo. It's the biggest grooming not just grooming competitions, but grooming trade shows, seminars, everything in the world. And I'm like, all right, so that I started my business in May, and that's always in September. So that September, went to Hershey, took all the classes I possibly could take to learn everything I possibly could. And then when I walked out into like where the competitions are going on, because I know they do grooming competitions, but I really didn't know about creative. And so when I walked out there and I'm watching all these colorful dogs on stage, and they are cutting and carving them and getting them ready, to finish them up for the competition, I was just in awe. And I was like, that is so cool. I'm like, that is so neat to see, like dogs all colored up with faces on them or designs or whatever. And I just said, one day I'm going to do that. Like one day I'm going to be on that stage doing that. And that's kind of where it all started. Because then I'm like, well, after that, I'm like, I got to get a poodle. Like, I need a poodle if I want to do this. So a couple years after, I'm trying to think when I got him, I don't want to say, it wasn't very too long after going to Hershey, I got my first poodle. And then I kind of just started playing around with colors and trying to cut and carve. And I tell like my staff, I was just telling them after this last weekend, we went to a competition. I'm like, you guys should see my very first creative grooming. And I'm sure I have pictures somewhere. They're like, oh, we would love to see it. I'm like, it is terrible. It is like, I look at it now, like, what was I doing? But like, you don't know. Like I never, I just kind of jumped into it, doing it, not knowing what I'm doing. And most of my creative grooming stuff I've taught myself. Like I had to learn on my own how to do it. And then finally, like a few years back, I kind of went and seen a mentor and was like, okay, like, what can I do better? Like help me out. Like how can I improve? And she gave me some good advice. And ever since then I've been doing great. So, it's pretty cool, and we travel around the US for these competitions. I go to about 8 competitions a year. And I'm going to say since 2022, I've been doing pretty well. So
pretty well. Let's go into your first big win at Hershey.
Yeah, so that was 2022. So like I said, Hershey is, the Super Bowl of pet grooming competitions, the Groom Olympics, as they call it. And, I was feeling pretty good that year. My design on my dog was the Emperor's New Groove. And so as you can imagine, if you know that movie, I had like the front of him look like the llama. And then on the sides, I had Cusco and I had Yzma, and I had Yzma, like his tail was the potion. So it looked like Yzma was holding up the potion.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, who else did I have on there?
And honestly, I think we're going to try to throw it up on screen.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yes,
yeah,
please.
Yeah.
You have to send me this stuff. So
I had like all the main characters on there, and then in the background was like the map that they follow through the movie,
Yeah,
so the background of him was the map. It was, I loved it. It was great. It was like, it was my favorite design, like almost my favorite design I've ever done. But yeah, so that was my first year that I actually won really big. And so we traveled around and I was doing pretty well with it, and the cool thing about it, like when you go to these competitions, for the most part, you kind of have the same judge at all the competitions. Not every time, but there is one main judge you see a lot. And the cool thing is after your competition, you can always ask for critiques. And so, which is a great idea, like to do, because if this judge is going to be at a lot of your competitions, you want to know what she wants to see, right? So I would always ask, like, what can I do better? What can I do better? What did you like? What didn't you like? Even if I won first place, what could I've done better? Like I just need to know. And so she would give you your critiques, and then you want to follow through with those critiques because you're going to see her again. She's going to make sure, like, hey, last time I told you to do this and you didn't do it. So you want to make sure you listen to those critiques. So, but yeah, so the first year going to, I don't know if that was the first year going to Hershey or not. I'd have to go back and kind of look to see if I went to Hershey before that to compete. But we go there and up on that stage, and it's intimidating because it's the biggest, the crowd's huge. There's so many people, so many competitors, and that one's really hard because that competition, you have to do everything on stage. It's a live competition. Some of the competitions we do, you can have like half your dog done. So like when you show up to compete, you can have like everything cut and carved in, and you can have even like half of your like what we call finish work, like your airbrushing, because we airbrush all the details and stuff on a dog. You can have like some of that done. So it's like, and then you have like an hour on stage for the competition to finish everything and get it all together. But Hershey is, the only thing you can have done is your dog is colored and it's ready to go. You have to do all your cutting, carving, on stage, and then you have to do all your finished work and everything else. So it is intense. It is, and you have 2.5 hours. So it's not a lot of time to do all that work. No. So that's the tricky part. But anyway, so we go to Hershey, and they do what they call the People's Choice Award, and that's when like the crowd cheers for whoever is their favorite, right? And so like the cool thing about winning the People's Choice is you win the cover to Groomer magazine, which is the biggest magazine in the grooming industry. And so that's always been a goal of mine. Like, I want to win the cover of the magazine. I'm like, I don't even care if I place. I want that cover, right? Like, I want to be on the cover. And so that's the first thing they do is the People's Choice, and I won People's Choice, and I was ecstatic. Everybody loved my design. I thought it was the coolest, so I was ecstatic, won that, and then I won first place. And I was that was been my goal forever. It was like, I would love to win first place at Hershey. That's, the biggest competition of the year. But my goal was to win, People's Choice, which I got both. So I was like, that's awesome, like so cool.
Twofer.
Yeah. And actually, now that I think about it, no, I had been to Hershey twice before that with 2 other designs, and I did not place at all. Okay. So, and it's kind of like I had to work on my skills. And that's what I was saying. Like, I thought I was doing pretty decent, but not good enough. So I had to get a mentor to be like, okay, where am I slacking? What do I need to do? Like, how can I improve?
How do I get that extra mile in?
Yeah.
To really get up there.
Yep. So, and ever since then I've won.
You strike me, I think, pretty obviously as a very competitive person.
I'm very competitive.
Yeah, where does that competitive nature come from? And then how does that relate to business? Because I think it's clear that part of why you've been successful is you've just refused to give up.
That's true.
So how does that competitive
stubbornness
nature,
come from?
that stubbornness, that competitive nature fit into being a business owner and running your own business and everything like that?
Let's see. I am the youngest of 5.
Oh,
and we all played sports.
That'll do it.
So yes, yeah. I have 2 older sisters and then 2 older brothers. My brothers are closer to me in age, and let me tell you, they were ruthless. And so, playing basketball with them, and we lived out in the country, so we played all the sports out there, on the farm, whatever. But yeah, just wanting to be better than them. And then just high school sports, I played high school sports, and I was very I'm the best, I'm the best on the team. I would work hard. I did work hard to try to be the best. I just wanted to always be great. I don't know. I always wanted to give it 110% and leave it out on the court. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was just always determined to win, and, I didn't always win growing up, my brothers never let me win, but I think that's a lot of it, and just having that, that grit too, just kind of growing up on a farm, I was out there baling hay, I was out there, helping with all that stuff too. So I think just kind of growing up on a farm just kind of toughened me up, and I don't know. I don't know. I think that's probably what it is.
So Jolene, 2023, take us into that next year. You're coming off being best groomer in the world. There's a lot of pressure there. What was your design and what was the pressure like?
So my next design, I did a tribute to Robin Williams, and I did Jumanji, the old school, I wanted the old school Jumanji, and I honestly don't really know why I thought about that design, but I think it intrigued me because I'm I love Robin Williams, and I love the animals in Jumanji. So, I did the one side of my dog had Robin Williams' face, and the front of him was the rhino. I had the game board in the background, and I'm trying to think what else I did on there. I think we just did a lot of animals and stuff on him. So it was very high pressure because coming off of the big win, and I'm can I go 2 for 2, So, and I feel like the beginning of the year is always a struggle for me because when you start off, and I say beginning of the year, for me, the way everybody does it different. Some people will be Hershey is the first time I'm doing this design, and then I'll go from there till the next time Hershey comes up. So that's the big one. And you stick with the same design all year because you're cutting and carving, dyeing. That's hours and hours and hours of work. So you're not going to switch your design throughout the year. It is, you stick with the same design for the entire year. Where you want to start your year is up to you. I always start my year at the beginning of the year. So January, I would plan okay, this is going to be my next grooming, and I would start getting my dog ready for it. And then I would compete with that until the end of the year. So, getting started with that, it was a little rough. I think we went to Maryland for a competition, and I did place there, but I wasn't like thrilled with how it looked. I'm such a procrastinator, and that's one bad thing. Like, I feel like I could have done so much better in my creative career if I actually practiced a little bit more and like worked on my dog more, like practiced the designs a little bit more. Cause I would just kind of, go from competition to competition, not really work on him until like the next competition, which I mean, looking back at it, kind of dumb. I should be working on him in between, but I really wasn't. So it took me a little bit to kind of perfect that design, because then I would go in and then, something didn't look right, or I could have done something different. But that's when you start talking to your judges and they're like, oh, I would like to see this. I'd like to see that. And then you start making your changes. So beginning of the year was a little bit rough, but by the time Hershey came around, I was doing pretty well. Like I went from like not placing to getting like third place to second place. And then I started getting some first placements. So then coming into Hershey, I felt pretty confident, but you never know, you never know, even the day of like going into a competition, like I could screw up, or like my stuff might not work, right? Like we have these, airbrushes, right? And you're airbrushing your dog. Like if your airbrush didn't work, like you're kind of screaming, like, what am I going to do? So you really don't know how your dog's going to turn out. You hope it's going to turn out great, right? But things happen. But yeah, so that next year, I was really hoping for a repeat, and I was very anxious about it. Like I remember I couldn't sleep. It was intense, and I just was like, this is going to be crazy. And I knew if I don't win, I'm going to be so upset, like with myself, right? Like, cause I always like, I can do better. I always look at my dogs and I can be like, I could do better. Even when I get a first placement, I look at them like, like I could have done that better. That could have done better. Things could look so much better, look different. But yeah, going into Hershey, then we got another People's Choice. So then I got the cover again, back-to-back years. So that was pretty exciting. And then I got first place again. So I was like, that's great. Did it again. So we had 2. So I was 2 for 2 there. So that was great.
That's amazing. So take us into then this last year of competition and being a 2-time world champion, going for 3. What was your mindset like, and what was this year leading up to it?
Last year, I had to take a little bit of a break from creative. I kind of started off, my last year's theme was Shrek, which was super exciting. My dad helped me kind of come up with that theme. So it kind of was a tribute to him. I was competing with that, and we actually did pretty well with that design. But when Hershey was coming around, I was getting my dog ready and was working on him every day, getting him dyed, getting him ready for the competition. And the week of the competition, my dad was in the hospital, and he's got some serious medical issues going on, and he has for years, but it gets, every now and then it's worse. And I had a really tough time with, leaving the state while he was in the hospital, knowing the shape he was in at the time. Like I didn't know how things were going to go. So I actually pulled last year. So I didn't compete last year, which I'm glad I did. I mean, my dad's still doing okay. He's with us. So that's great. I just remember like when I went and talked to him about it, he cried. He was so upset that I didn't go. He was like, why didn't you go? And I was like, I can't leave you in the hospital, but, so I'm a little sad I missed out on last year, but it was good for good reason. So coming into it this year, I kind of felt like I really had something to prove, because, I'm like, I missed a little bit of last year. I didn't get to finish out like I wanted to. So coming back into this year, I wanted to try to get to as many competitions as I could. And I decided to do the movie Mulan. And not going to lie, I was not very familiar with that, because when that came out in 1998, this is going to date me, but I was like a junior in high school. So I really didn't watch the movie like ever. And so when I had kind of talked about this being my last year, because I kind of said last year, like next year is probably going to be my last year competing. I've got too much going on with the business. I've too much going on with family. I've got 2 kids now, a husband who travels a lot. And I don't have the time, like in the time it takes to prep a dog, to get ready for competition. It takes up a lot of time, and I'm taken away from the business or my family. And I'm just like, I can't do it all anymore. And I'm getting older. I'm getting tired. So, I kind of said, this is going to be my last year. And since I said, this is my last year, my groomer, who has been with me for 12 years, she was like, can I pick your design this year? And I was like, well, what would you want me to do? And she's like, can you do my favorite movie? And I'm like, what's your favorite movie? And she said, Mulan. And I'm like, okay, maybe. Like, I've never watched it. And she was like, are you kidding me? You never watched the movie? I'm like, no, I've never watched the movie. So then I had to go and watch it. And I was like, okay, like, I guess I can try to like, figure out a design. Because when I think of a movie, like something I really want to do, like I've done Beauty and the Beast, and that's something I kind of grew up with too, and I love that movie. I did that design one time. That was COVID year. So that was kind of a short stint of doing that design. But
we'll put that picture up.
Yeah. Like I like to do things that I can like really like, what do I say? Like have a connection with, And that movie, I'm like, I don't know. At first I was just like, well, how can I really have like a connection with this movie? It's about, you guys know the movie at all? About like this, the girl that goes to war, for her dad and fights and pretends she's a guy, and all that stuff.
It was actually my favorite movie growing up.
Really?
It
Yeah.
was.
See?
Yeah.
So like, yeah. So, and I really wasn't familiar with it. So I'm like, okay, we'll figure this out. And I think I had to watch it like 3 times before I was like, I get it now. Like, it's not just about like, the girl, going to war and, doing all that, going to battle for her dad. And that's the part that really set with me is, here's this girl, going to battle for her dad because, he's too feeble, like he can't do it. So, and I was kind of like, like if I could go to war for my dad, if I could help him battle what he battles, I would do that in a heartbeat, So that's kind of where I kind of came in on it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do this design. So, the front of him looks like Khan, the horse, and then I've got Mulan and her dad on one side, and she's got Mushu, the dragon, all wrapped around her, and he's holding the lucky cricket. So I have all of them on there, and then I've got Shane Lee, the guy that she likes, the guy that teaches her how to battle, or Lee Shane, sorry, and then she's got Shane Yu, or I have Shane Yu on the backside, and his tail is Shane Yu's falcon. So it actually looks pretty cool, but to get all the characters on there. So since she had asked me to do it, that's why I chose that design. And we kind of rocked it this whole year. So, like I said, at the beginning, it's always a little bit shaky for me because I don't practice it like I should. And so when I go to a first competition, I think I may have got a 3rd place and then a 2nd place and, kind of fighting for that first. And I had a couple first places this year. And then, so Hershey was kind of like, I knew it was going to be up in the air. I knew it was going to be I knew going into this year, it was going to be a tough one. Because mostly there was a competition that I had missed right before Hershey. That one's in Chicago. And usually I go to that one every year, but the way the dates fell for competitions this year, they were just a lot different than what they normally are. And so that competition actually was the same weekend my kids were going to be starting school that Monday for school. So I didn't want to miss their first day of school. So I chose my family over going to this competition. Because I'm like, I'd rather be home than going to compete. So, and that's kind of where I knew like, my priorities are different now. Like my family's my priority, not really these competitions anymore. And that's kind of why I was like, it's time for me to stop competing. And so, getting ready for Hershey, I guess what I was going to say is all of my competitors, I'm going to say probably 90% of them just competed 2 weeks ago, right before this competition. I have not touched my dog since June. So it was like, I'm coming into this competition it's been 8 weeks since I've done anything with my dog. And they all just groomed their dogs 2 weeks ago. So I'm like, this is going to be tough. They had their dogs done to a T 2 weeks ago. I don't, and I'm not going to. So I knew it was going to be a tough one. So I knew it could go either way where I was going to place, if I was going to place. And because there's great competitors out there. I mean, you see these dogs, it blows your mind. Like just the things that they do and how great they look. There's tough competition out there. And so I really I had some, I didn't have high expectations, but I was really hoping I would do well and hoping I could really pull it off. I really wanted the People's Choice again because I'm like, this is my last year competing. Originally, Hershey was not going to be my last competition. I was going to go to Florida in October, but as I was getting ready for this competition, just the amount of time it was taking to get my dog ready, I was just like, I don't have time for this. I just have too much going on with my business and too much going on with my kids. And I'm like, I can't juggle it all anymore. I just feel like it's just too much. So as I was getting ready for Hershey, I decided, you know what? This is going to be my last one. This is my last show. It's the biggest show of the year. This is going to be my last one. Win or lose, this is it. So we go to the show, and I was really hoping for the People's Choice, like I said, because I really wanted the cover again, but I did not win it, sadly. So it's okay. I mean, I was just like, all right. So after they kind of announced that, I was like, oh man, like, I guess I don't get the cover again, which is what I really wanted, but that's okay. So then they start doing the placements, and I just knew like, this is going to be a tough one. I'm up against like the top people in the world right now. Like, this is going to be tough. And, they called third placement, and I was like, all right, it's not me. And I was just like, oh, great. Because I'm thinking if I'm going to place, it's probably going to be second or third. Mm-hmm. And so they called third, and it wasn't me. I was like, oh, crap. And then they call second place, and it wasn't me. And then I was just like, see, this is why I quit doing this. Like, this is why I quit competing, because you put so much time and effort and all this work for what? For nothing. Like, you show up to these things, you pay to do these things for what? Like, you don't place. Like, this is why I'm done doing this. And then I got first place. And then I was like, oh,
that's why.
That's why. This is why I do it. That's why. Like, I guess I'm my own worst critic, which I think most people are, right? Like, I am my own worst critic, because even after I won first place, I'm looking at my dog like, that's not even the best I've ever done. Like, I don't think it looks like, not that I didn't do a good job. I think I did a good job, but like, I think I could done better. Like, I could always do better. I don't know. It's my mindset. I could always do better.
Yeah. Speaking of your mindset, I mean, you're a 3-time world champion, which is impressive.
I'm excited about that.
World champion in anything, that's amazing. And so take us into that mindset of what do you think makes a world champion, and what kind of set you apart maybe from other people as far as your mindset goes?
Like, again, like, I don't feel like I give up. I mean, even though like, yes, I'm retired now from competition grooming.
It was after you won it 3 times.
Yes,
that's a little
like
different.
It's not like it's not like I never won. Now I retired. But I have bigger and better things planned in the future. I wouldn't say better, but there's more things. I'm going to continue my story here. So like, this isn't the end for me as far as when it comes to creative grooming. I know this isn't going to be the end for me. I may not be competing anymore, but there's a good chance I'll be judging. So like, nice. I'm excited about that. Like, the next chapter is super exciting. But yeah, like, I don't know why, like, I am the way I am as far as like my mindset goes. Like, I'm the type of person, like I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter. Like, I have to see things through. I want to, always do the best I can. And I don't want to look back at something and be like, man, I could have done so much better with that. Or I could have, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I'm a shoulda, woulda, coulda person. I don't like to do that. But, yeah, I don't know. I have a crazy mindset. I just never want to give up, and I can't let go, and I just got to see things through.
I remember someone gave me the piece of advice one time. They said, you only lose when you give up.
Yeah.
So as long as you're still trying, you could still pull it out.
Yeah, it still work.
That's an effective mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I want to kind of transition here kind of into our next segment, one of our final segments, and that's our quick fire questions.
Oh, geez.
So these are just real quick questions right off the rip. Answer them as fast as you can. All right. So tea or coffee to start the day?
Coffee.
Coffee. Just 1 cup?
Sometimes 2.
Sometimes 2. Okay. What is your favorite local business besides your own?
Ooh, like anything?
Anything.
Oh man. Gosh. All I can think is pizza. Like, I love pizza. So any pizza place is good.
You don't have a favorite?
No, I don't. I jump around.
Okay. Awesome. All right. 1 word to describe entrepreneurship.
Crazy.
Crazy. That's so good.
You got to be a little crazy to do it, right?
You got to be crazy to do it. That is one thing I want to say that my husband had always said to me from the start, because as I explained, it's been a roller coaster. He said, if owning your own business was so easy, everybody would do it. He's like, it is hard. So that's why most people don't do it. So that's always something that stuck with me. But yeah.
I guess that's a good transition. What's the biggest myth about business?
You're not rich. Just because you own a business doesn't mean you're just filthy rich and you have all this money coming in. You have so many expenses. So many expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so true. So, I guess, any other questions, Austin?
You've mentioned your husband a few times as someone who's like had your back, given you really good advice at times, went with you to North Carolina to get the van the first time. What does it mean to have someone who has your back that way sometimes, especially in business?
Yeah. It has been it's unexplainable. Like I appreciate him so much, and even at sometimes though he may not feel appreciated, I try to remind him that I do appreciate him. I would not be where I'm at if it wasn't for him. I can say that he has been my rock through everything. You know, when I had hardships with employees and like losing my mind and like being so upset about things, like he would be there to comfort me. If I'd run into like a financial issue, he would help back me with that. It's always been, he's my go-to person for advice, like, hey, like this is happening at work or whatever, blah, blah, like, how would you handle it? And I get his input on it and kind of like figure out how do I want to handle it. But, he's very part of everything. So he's always been great. So very appreciative.
Yeah. What's the future like for Paw Prints?
You don't want to hear that. Because I have these crazy ideas in my head all the time. Like, what if I got another van and we picked up this service area, like there's no mobile groomer over here. So what if we did that? That's what goes through my mind. Like what's my next thing? Like, what's my next step? Like, where are we going to grow? How can we grow? I'm always about like, I always said I would never have employees again, but here I am trying to talk about like, where can I grow? What can we do? What can we do more? So, honestly, I think my thing is I would like to find maybe a little bit of a bigger location as far as like our Harding Highway location. I love like the area we're in. Would be nice if we can find a bigger facility or something that can house us a little bit better. Because we have grown so much there over the last few years, and then, maybe another mobile. So we'll see. But now that I'm not competing anymore, I'm going to really dive into the business more and see how we can grow and make it more profitable.
That's awesome. And we'll put, your website, your phone number, all that in the description for people to see.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we just want to say thanks for coming on today.
I appreciate it. It's been such a fun time. So
it's been great.
It's been great.
It's an honor to talk to a 3-time
world
champion. No, it is.
Yeah, it truly has been.
Well, I'm glad you understand that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for watching. And
thank you to iHeart for letting us use the studio today. It was an awesome podcast. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
See you guys in the next one.
See you.